people don't realize how different the East Coast and West Coast racing worlds are. They are two different worlds, totally separate worlds.
What do you think's different?
It's the people, I'd say how the racing, how people get along is very different. Like, I was so used to, like, everyone's buddies. Like, we all might take each other out, but like, we're all kind of cool after the race, and like, we'll probably all go hang out, at least like your kind of group of people. But it's not really like that in stock car racing, and everyone knows everybody, and everybody's super friendly. And I feel like in NASCAR racing, everyone's so like uptight. Like,
Doggy dog.
yeah, it's like
Yes.
you're constantly having to watch your back so someone doesn't stab it.
You're your sponsor.
Yes. And I wasn't used to that stuff,
Yeah.
like, at all.
It's the Kenny Wallace Conversation, brought to you by JEGS.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Kenny Conversation, brought to you by JEGS, the leader in high-performance aftermarket car parts. Remember to go to jegs.com. I love saying that. Well, as I always say, we got to pause a little bit because it's time to interview one of the greatest lady racers of our era, Hailie Deegan. Hailie, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Hanging out at the house today, so just having fun.
Yeah, you've been having a lot of fun. You ran second in that SRX race live on ESPN, the flagship station. The whole world saw you, but let's talk about that a little bit later on. There's a little bit to get to. We won't rough you up that bad. Is that all right?
That's good. All right, I appreciate it.
22 years old. And one thing I never thought about is it's you and your mom against the boys. It's your dad, Brian, and then was it Hudson and Hayden? Is that
Yep.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Do
Yeah, I have two little brothers.
do they rough you up since you're the girl of the family?
I mean, I think because I was the oldest, I kind of roughed them up growing up. So I take responsibility for their aggressive demeanor and personalities.
Yeah, and sometimes I can relate to your dad, Brian, because they put me on Ritalin when I was in school because I was a little off the charts. I've talked to your dad. Your dad looks, I think your dad and myself could be brothers. What's it up? That's roughly hyper. Is he hyper?
Very, very. I'm surprised. I hope I have that much energy when I'm that age.
So I've noticed that your family and my family are somewhat comparable. So my dad, Russ, my brother, Rusty, my brother, Mike, my mom ran Powder Puffs. As we all have been able to watch your family grow, it seems like you all were always in racing. Now, is that all you know when you grew up? Was it just racing all the time?
Yeah, so I got started in racing when I was around 8 years old, and I used to be like a super girly girl. Like, I was in
Really?
Girl Scouts, I played volleyball, like I was pink everything, like room decorated princess style. Like, I was very girly girl. Like, I was always with my mom, always going shopping to the mall together. And then as my dad started racing off-road trucks and getting out of the moto side of his career, that's when I started really taking interest in it, because there was other kids doing it in the moto scene. When you've made it and you are at these top level competitions, there's no kids there. So I never got to witness those things until we started going to these off-road races. And then I started witnessing other kids racing. And I was like, I didn't even know this was an option for me. And so that's when I started taking interest in it.
You really lead me right into this direction. And it was, when I studied your career, man, you're really well balanced. And when I watch your YouTube videos, and I want to get to YouTube later on, but you've raced motorcycles, you've raced go-karts, you've raced trucks, dirt trucks, off-road, closed course. Wow. I mean, you really have, only at 22 years old, you've done it all. Was that path, was that set, or did you go, hey, now that I'm running go-karts, I want to try motorcycles? Or you did motorcycles first? What was the order there?
So I started out in off-road trucks. That was the first things that I drove like little UTVs and stuff, like just around the house, the property, quads, like just cruising around like how every kid does when you got some acres. And so I really got started just in the off-road truck stuff because my dad was doing it. And then when I was just pretty much in that world, and I did go-karting stuff for practice, and a lot of my other friends did it for practice too. So it was like I got to go-kart track, hang out with my friends, do some races. And my coach at the time, he owned a go-kart track, still does. And so we would always go out there, like our group of friends, and go practice. And it was fun. So that's how I kind of got started on the go-kart side of things. And then when I got originally picked up to run K&N, ARCA stuff, that's when I started kind of branching out and doing some dirt racing, more like dirt circle track racing and durable racing. So that's what I just really think that for a driver, the most cars you can drive, it's like having another tool in your toolbox. It's just something that you can utilize when you're in situations on the track, be able to pick apart little things or make better decisions or whatever it is. I feel like just being able to have experience in different cars helps.
I was out in Sturgis with my brother Rusty,
Mhm.
and I can tell Rusty really wants to maybe run the SRX series, but he's he calls me Herman. He says man, you're really fast in your dirt car, but you keep doing it. You got your reps in. He says I couldn't get back in, and he feels like he couldn't be up to par. So what you're saying is it's the reps, it's the constant doing racing, eye hand coordination. That's what you feel really helps you.
Yeah, I think that just being behind the wheel of so many different things, I feel like when you're in situations like tough situations, I feel like that's when those things come out that you've learned from other vehicles. And just getting experience, like being able to feel things that you haven't in that certain car because you drove this car over here, you're like, oh, okay, I remember when I drove this, it feels similar. And be able to kind of work around those things. I think it's just good, especially in stock car racing. It's not cheap to get laps. So it's definitely something that's hard. And so I think utilizing other resources that are more financially probably an easy, a little bit less expensive decision helps a lot.
Well, you bring up a really good point. I would have never thought about that because I mean, simple. If you're going to run an Indy car, like
Mhm.
starting an Indy car up is like a huge deal. Like we're going to start the car up. Uh, us stock car people, we just fired up. But you bring up a good point. So I always talk about family with you because I feel like I can relate. So when I first started racing in NASCAR, my brother Rusty was there for me. Now, mind you, my dad was a good racer, my mom, my brother Mike. But I'll never forget, I went to Martinsville for my very first time. And my brother Rusty looks at me and goes, you see that curb? I said, yeah, I see that curb on the inside. He goes, you do whatever you got to do to get that left front down on that curb and roll as quick as you can. So my brother gave me advice. Did he ever, say, Hailie, look, or did he tutor you at all? Do you remember any circumstances where you're like, my dad really helped me there mentally? Did that ever happen?
So I think that happened a lot at the beginning of my career when I was doing the off-road truck stuff because he was so versed in that world. By the time I started getting good at it, he's been doing it for years and been a part of it for years. So he knows a lot. He's accomplished a lot in it, won a bunch of championships, tons and tons of races. And so he knew his stuff when it came to that. So he was always able to help me out. Like he spotted me for all my off-road truck races and stuff. And that's something that's fairly normal in like the off-road scene, like having your dad spot you or someone like say your brother, whoever it is, a part of your crew. But like I feel like there was so many. You gotta keep in mind, like I am a girl. My demeanor, like I'm not.
I have three daughters.
Yes, and you probably have realized that your daughters say who are their nieces, nephews. If they're boys, they're like your girls are probably a little bit more tamed down and not as aggressive, crazy personality, not as destructive, whatever it is. And I think that because of that, my dad saw that, and because of me being a girl, he was always trying to get me fired up, always trying to make me be more aggressive and kind of, I don't know, like light that fire under me to really like be aggressive. And I think that's something that I learned from him. And I think that was a necessary part of like my growing up in my childhood for being a girl racer, because I feel like just girls are naturally a little bit more tame, a little bit calmer in situations, not as aggressive personalities.
So that is really interesting. So if your dad would have not roughed you up a little bit,
Hmm.
would you have stayed tame, a girly girl?
I don't think I would have been girly girl, but I don't think I would have been as aggressive personality as like I am, or at least like as aggressive on the track or whatever, or even had as much success as I did. Because a lot of the success that I had, like even starting out in the stock car stuff, came from me being super aggressive and him kind of getting me hyped up before the race. And I don't think I would have had that success without him kind of being the person to really like tell me to.
Yeah, yeah, I get that. Well, there's nothing wrong with reminding people. So I want to remind everybody, your dad, Brian, is one of the greatest of all time. Uh, he's done too much to read off, but as they say in modern era, Google it.
Yeah, yeah, Google it.
he he has truly done it all,
Hmm.
and he cut a path that helped everybody. When you're young, you're only 22. When did it dawn on you that damn, my dad's famous, damn, my dad's good?
I
Do you remember a time?
I think I've always known my dad's good at what he does, whether it was like the moto side of things, the freestyle motocross, rally cars, off-road trucks. It was kind of just like I've always known he's good, and that's a lot of pressure put on someone at like such a, for me, like being a young age, you're a little naive, and so like I go and I'm like, oh yeah, I just kind of expect my dad to win, like type
Yeah.
of deal, just because he gets so much
My
stuff, which I guess now looking back,
dad's good.
probably a lot of pressure to put on him as his daughter, but I think that's his success and everything that he has. Like, there's so much I feel like I can learn from that. And he's accomplished so many things, whether it's winning 16 X Games medals, winning rally car races, off road truck races. Like, he's truly won at everything he has done. So,
Clothing
obviously,
company.
yeah, he's got it figured out. He had a massive clothing company that was super, super successful, like crazy successful. Like, as someone who has their own merchandise company and also another clothing brand, it's hard. It's hard to get started out. It's hard to build those relationships and figure out how to run a business, especially being new at it, like not having other people come in and do it for you.
So, okay, we've established kind of who you are, where you're from, your mom, your brothers, the whole early part of your career. So let's move to NASCAR. So you had success. I've Googled you. You've had success. You went to the West Series.
Mm-hmm.
How did you go from the early part of your career? What was the phone call? What do you remember about, hey, I'm going to, I remembered as the Winston West Series, but that's a tough series. When do you remember that taking place? Now we're going out of that into the NASCAR type cars.
Yeah, so I haven't really told, I guess, like the in-depth story of how it all played out. So my mom at 14, I was about 15 years old at that time. And you gotta look at it. NASCAR is the biggest form of racing, in my opinion, in America. It's if you like, I feel like that's where I wanted to end up, because there were so many, it's like the eyes on it, it's just looked at as like the crown jewel of racing. And when you're growing up, like, oh, I want to make it to NASCAR. And so that was something that like it was in the back of my mind a little bit, but I was racing off-road trucks and I kind of had peaked there a little bit, as in like there wasn't much more to accomplish. Like there, because it is a smaller series of racing and a smaller form of racing, to where there isn't like many more levels to go up to once you kind of hit the pro classes and do good there. So after that, I was like, man, like I was 15 years old, and I think my parents kind of saw it too, that like, what's next? Like I can't just be okay with where I'm at like 15 and not work for anything else. And so that's when my mom had signed me up for the NASCAR diversity program.
Well,
And,
I'll be damned. No,
yeah. Yeah. So she signed me up. And it's funny because she actually, when she was signing me up online, it said how the forms failed or whatever, it didn't go through, yada, yada, yada. And she's like, man, it's not working. And then it just so happened that the forms actually went through. And so,
Wow.
yeah. And because of that, I came out to North Carolina and tested it was for the junior, like, diversity program that they have for legend cars to race at the summer shootout. I ended up trying out for that, and I made it. And I ended up racing the full summer shootout because that in North Carolina, I like. It's so funny when I explain this to people because I always say like, "Oh, back in California, back on the West Coast." People don't realize how different the East Coast and West Coast racing worlds are. They are two different worlds, totally separate worlds.
What do you think's different?
It's the people. I'd say how people get along is very different. Like I was so used to like everyone's buddies, like we all might take each other out, but like we're all kind of cool after the race, and like we'll probably all go hang out at least like your kind of group of people. But it's not really like that in stock car racing, and everyone knows everybody and everybody's super friendly. And I feel like in NASCAR racing everyone's so like uptight, like
Doggy dog.
yeah, it's like you're
Yes.
constantly having to watch your back so someone doesn't stab it.
You're your sponsor.
Yes. And I wasn't used to that stuff,
Yeah.
like at all. And so getting back to what I was saying, I always get off track.
No. Hailie, this is Kenny conversation. We had the Tony Stewart said the same thing, but yeah, it's okay because we're in no order here. But
Okay.
anyway, yeah. So you signed up for the diversity program,
Yes.
and I said, "What's the difference between East Coast, West Coast?" I agree with you. So anyway, you got to the diversity program, and we're trying to get Winston West racing.
So and I didn't even know what the K&N series was. I didn't know the difference between a late model and a super late model. Like this was all foreign to me. Like I was so new. I'm 15 years old and I was stuck in my world on the West Coast of off-road racing. And so I came over here and I ended up doing a late model test. And like my parents were just like, well, like we see that late models are kind of like the next thing to go. And my parents were kind of foreign to it too. And they're like, well, let's go do a test or something to see if you even like can drive one.
Yeah, so, they're tough competition.
Yeah. And so that's when I went to, it was at Hickory, or no, it was Hickory and Greenville Pickens. We did a 2-day test. And so I want to try 2 different tracks. No clue why. No clue. And so we ended up going out there and there was someone there who had a connection with Toyota and did some sort of testing with some other girls at Toyota. And they ended up coming to us and were like, hey, Toyota's been looking for some girls or whatever, like been kind of scouting around. And they're like, do you care if we call them? And my parents were like, sure. Like, I don't know. Like, we don't know what that entails. And so I guess the guy ended up calling them. They got in contact with us. And then that's when I got a test at Irwindale in a K&N car. And I still remember it to this day. It was in Todd Gillen's K&N car when he drove for BMR, the 16 car at Irwindale. We ended up testing there and I did really good. And there was a few other girls that they tested out. And I ended up doing the best out of those group of girls. And there was, I guess it was like they've been testing girls constantly. And so I am doing really good with that. And I got a 3-year contract with Toyota to go K&N racing. And so that's how I ended up actually getting into the K&N West Series with Bill McAnally.
I'm going to make sure Charlie clips this part right here. I had no idea. And I don't think many people know that that's how you know, one of your roads is the diversity. And literally, you know, when people are looking for an in, and here your mom just got on the internet.
Yeah.
And put it in there. So,
and you know what's so funny, what's so coincidental, like that the racing world is small, very small. When I went for my first year for the diversity program, I guess my only year that I did, to race the summer shootout, my boyfriend, who we've been dating for over 3 years now, and he was racing for the diversity program at that time in the K&N stuff. And so like we've always known about each other for like ever since like in North Carolina.
Yeah, I met my boyfriend at the diversity program.
Oh,
he's a boy and I'm a girl. So anyway, NASCAR watches all the Kenny conversations. So let me get that right. That is the NASCAR West Series. I'm an old guy. So, yeah,
Oh.
when Winston was around, the tobacco company, it was the Winston West Series,
Oh,
but
yeah.
it is now NASCAR West Series. So you went on. There's no doubt you're really good. I watched a lot of your races. You had to, because you became the first female driver in history to win. And you didn't win one. You won in 2018, 2019. Now, I loved watching those races because now that I'm talking to you, your dad came out in you a little bit. Them boys were blocking you, wouldn't give you no room. And short track racing, I lived 27 years in Concord, North Carolina, just like you. Moved from St. Louis there. When you grow up around the bull rings, you just can't pass.
Yeah.
It's hard to get up underneath somebody. So sometimes you got to move them.
Yeah.
And you moved them.
Uh-huh.
But you did it right. You got them, up out of the groove, getting into the corner. What do you remember about those two, what I call groundbreaking wins? First lady racer to win in the NASCAR West Series. What do you remember? I remember the one at Vegas on dirt. That was badass.
Yeah, that one was cool. So I'll be super honest with you, and like this is something that I feel comfortable saying around you to where you won't bash my dad for doing this, but
no, because me and your dad are always like this.
Yeah. So my dad was always amping me up in racing. I think we've gotten the point of that. And my spotter at the time, I was pretty close with him, my first win. And my dad was always like, and we always had talked about, like, if I was in second, like, I'm moving him. Like, I don't care.
Second's a big deal.
And it might have been kind of that information fed into me by my dad a little bit. But I remember when I was in second, my dad, you got to think about, most people have radios and stuff, like when you're kind of at local races. My dad keyed up on the radio with like a lap or two to go and told me to move it, which I had already kind of planned to, but he keyed up and did that. And like for the next 2 to 3 years, like it's finally, I'd say 2 years ago, it's kind of passed now, but that was like the talk for a while. How's like, my dad's the crazy dad on the radio. And I'm like, he's not. He just keyed up one time to remind me.
Time to win.
Oh yeah. Which I'm thankful he did. Like I didn't see a problem with it, especially back in the day. I didn't see a problem with it. Now I'm like, obviously you can't do that during like a truck race or something. But back then, like we were so foreign to it that like I'm like, he would have keyed up and told me that in any other, like, and he has, like back when I was younger racing, I'm like, I didn't see a problem with it. I won, so I really didn't.
Well, you know what, Hailie, obviously I'm a lot older than you. And years ago, the great Dale Earnhardt Sr., he became the intimidator. And here's why. Because you look in your mirror and you would see Dale Sr. coming, right? Mm-hmm. And you would try to race him. Well, he wouldn't give you 3 seconds.
Yeah.
He popped you right in the ass and moved you out of the way. So then I said, one of the reasons Earnhardt won so many races is because every time we looked in our mirrors and we saw Dale Sr. coming, we moved out of the way.
Yeah.
He didn't have to race nobody.
Oh. That's funny.
So blame it on your dad.
Yeah. I'll put that one on him.
Well,
it wasn't me driving. It was him for sure.
Yeah. Well, that's badass. Okay, so you won races 2018, 2019, NASCAR West Series, big wins. Mm-hmm. So now we're going to move on to the big time. Mm-hmm. Now we're going to go east. You've talked about it a little bit, but at what point did the whole family say, we're like the Clampetts on Beverly Hillbillies. We're moving east. Because when did that happen?
So we didn't actually move to the East Coast full time, like really ever. And like I didn't until I was on my own out here, because I have a little brother who races full time now, Supercross, pro motocross, and he has just gone pro this year. But he was this rising star in the amateur ranks that like a big star, won everything there is.
Danger Deegan.
Yeah, that would be him. And so like he's looked at as like the guy, especially in the amateur ranks growing up, that like if Hayden didn't win, what happened? Why didn't he win? It was that type of deal where it's like the pressure is to not lose. And so they were so focused on also him, they kind of got me going, got me in the motion of things. And then they were so focused on him and making sure his career was good. And moto's all on the West Coast for the most part, at least like it has been until the past couple of years. And so they still had to be there with him. And he was training every single day, going to the track every single day, practicing. So like it takes a lot. And so I knew that kind of going into it. We were out here part-time. My parents had built a house up in Morganton, North Carolina. And we were out here part-time when we kind of could be, when we got on like the spurts of East Coast races, when I was doing ARCA and that sort of things. But we were never out here full-time.
Yeah. So you finally make the move and you end up going in the NASCAR Truck Series. So to this day, here's where we're at. You race right now in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. You run a Ford for Thor Motorsports, number 13. You know, I was always a little worried about the number 13, but I started 13th at Volusia and won my very first Xfinity race. What do you think about 13? Is that okay with you?
I mean, I'm not a superstition person. I've never been like all these superstitions that I hear. I'm like, I didn't have that growing up. I never heard of this. People were like, "Oh, you can't." And I think I kind of broke that when people are like, "Oh, you can't have a green car." And then I won with the K&N car, my Monster Energy car. And so I was like, okay, not real. And then like there was one about like you can't eat like chicken on race day or have peanuts on race day. Yeah, and I don't like peanut butter, so I'm fine with that. But I'm like, there's a lot of superstitions. I feel like I learn a new one with every single person I meet.
So I'm going to broach this conversation and you're going to answer it any way you want.
Okay.
Kenny conversation is fun. We don't get anybody in trouble. We're in NASCAR now. You're in the Truck Series. It just seems to me like when I watch these races, those boys, a lot of the times take advantage of you. They wreck the shit out of you. Listen, I ran 905 NASCAR races, and I remind everybody of that. I've been there, done it. Do they wreck you?
I would say it's a double-edged sword because I don't think people go out there and just like, I'm going to go after Hailie and type deal. I don't think it's like that, but I think it's maybe I've been over the last 2.5 years a little bit less aggressive because I kind of wanted to take a step back, and I knew the Truck Series was going to be hard. I knew going into it. And I still had a lot to learn. I didn't know a lot about the mechanical side of stock cars. Like even still going into the Truck Series, I was still learning so much, and I still am learning a lot. And I feel like there's always more to learn. But it was something to where I'm like, I'm going to be less aggressive. I'm going to be less of the person coming in here going like, I'm going to smoke all you guys type deal. Like I'm not going to be that person going into the Truck Series because it's going to be hard. And I know that. And so I kind of took a step back, and I think with that, I became a little bit less aggressive. And so I think I got into the category of people that, like, there's certain people on the track that you kind of know you can take advantage of. And I think,
I get it.
Yeah. And I think I put myself, like, didn't mean to, but like almost accidentally put myself into that category. And so I think this last year, I've tried to be more aggressive, tried to kind of get back what I had before. And I feel like because I was looked at as a person that's not as aggressive or they're easy to take advantage of. And I think because I was looked at like that that when I do start being aggressive, I just get junked. There's no like intimidation factor.
Right. Yeah, I get that. And you know what? I wasn't going to go to this situation now, but it's the perfect time, and I can't help myself. So you ran second in the big SRX race at Eldora. So no matter what we think of the SRX series, it's really famous. We know the cars are what they are. We know there's 12 or 13. But when you ran second, Tony Stewart got out of his car and said, damn, Hailie is really good on dirt. And then your interview for me because I got 3 daughters, your interview was very emotional because I've raced so much. I could see in your eyes
the glisten.
yeah, because you were happy because you have been roughed up over the last 2 years.
Yeah.
But all racers go through that. But what I really drew my attention to was that you said, and we all do it, Hailie. I'm not just saying this to you.
Yeah.
Even Mark Martin said, listen, when we win, we say, oh no, when's our next win going to be?
Mm-hmm.
So you've been roughed up lately over the last 2 years. You get the second place finish at Eldora. Tony Stewart says, oh my God, she's an incredible dirt racer. But you said, I have been lacking some confidence lately, and we all do.
Mm-hmm.
What techniques do you use? I had Square D, and I'm popular for telling the truth. They spent $22 grand on me going to Topeka, Kansas to take sports therapy.
Really?
My brother Rusty chewed my ass and he goes, you should have came to me. I'd have helped you.
That's funny.
So you don't have to say anything, but have you used any techniques here lately? Because it sounds to me like you need to start, getting going again.
Yeah.
What's the latest on confidence and techniques of getting your mojo back?
So it's funny, actually, about 2 to 3 weeks ago, like I always felt like I was going in a downward, and I'll be honest about it. Like I felt like I was going in a downward spiral. Obviously, when you aren't doing good in racing, or at least having those results, it don't matter if you're running 10th and you get wrecked. People look at that number. They go on that racing reference and they look up, oh, she finished 36. Well, yeah, because I was running 8th and I got junked. But
that's what I meant from earlier. You get wrecked a lot.
Yeah. And so people look a lot at that end number and don't see how it went throughout the race. And I think with that, though, it becomes like, okay, what if sponsors are getting unhappy? What if whoever the team's not believing you, whatever it is? Like, I feel like, those aren't things like my team believes in me, and I'm super thankful for that. I have a really good crew of guys behind me. But like, obviously it makes it tougher to get new sponsors. If I do want to move up to Xfinity, which I do, it makes it hard to find sponsors when those results aren't there. And plain and simple, because people look at that end result number and don't see if you are getting better or you're not, whatever it is. But with that, I just felt like I was spiraling and my confidence was completely gone. Start questioning myself of like, man, can I really do this? Like, do I have it in me to go to that next level? Do I have the ability to? And I just kind of like, I started talking to a few people about it, and I actually started working with, again, as of 2 weeks ago, started talking to him, and he actually came to that SRX race with me, was my old driving coach, like driving mental coach. He helped me out when I was winning in the off-road stuff, helped me. He's the one that owns the go-kart track, Troy Adams. And he helped me through my whole start of K&N and all of that. And then because he lives on the West Coast, once I kind of came East Coast, his son races too, so it's hard to make that happen. But I actually started working with him again, and he came to this last race, came to the SRX race and the truck race. I was super happy he was there to see me do good at the SRX race, but he helped me so much build my confidence back in the day. Like I definitely wasn't cocky back in the day, but I did not lack confidence. Like I thought I was one badass person back in the day. And you start to question those things when you don't get those results that you want to, or start hearing the noise going around from the outside coming in. And I think that working with him is something that's definitely, even now, I feel like started to help my confidence.
So when the SRX series started this year, Don Hawk called me. There was an IndyCar driver that got a ride real quick, and they needed a driver, so they called me up. So I came to the Stafford 2 race, and I saw you standing by yourself, and I didn't like that. So I come over to you. And
I'm used to it.
No, well, I don't like that. Do the boys sometime? Did they not talk to you, or what's that? What's that deal? I don't hang out with you. I don't know.
Yeah. So like the stock car, and maybe it's changed a lot back from like when you've raced versus like how it is now. But no drivers, like everyone, well, a few people have their little like cliques of like 2 to 4 people, but like no drivers really hang out or anything like pre-race or talk to each other a whole lot. There is a few that do, but like I don't feel like I'm a part of those groups.
Well, I noticed that. I come up and said something to you, and then it wasn't 30 minutes later, one of my friends, said, yeah, I felt bad for Hailie too. She kind of sitting there by herself, but but times have changed because it was never that way. I mean, Rusty Wallace, Dale Earnhardt Sr., they were friends. I mean, they went on
Mhm.
they went, on yachts together, and, Mark Martin and Ernie Irvin, were staying at each other's houses, and, somehow they could separate that.
Yeah. I feel like people struggle to separate that now.
I think competition, and remember, this is a conversation.
Mhm.
I think what I've noticed is everything is so hardcore now.
Mhm.
Back in our day, you got one sponsor and that's all you needed
Yeah.
for the whole year. And
Mhm.
I always got all my own sponsors, and that's
Yeah.
what I was popular for, running my mouth, selling product, and doing good on the racetrack.
Mhm.
Uh, but now I agree with you. You kind of got me at thinking that it takes 6, 8 sponsors a year.
Yeah.
Everything's so damn expensive, and everybody's got a pin up their butt, and everybody's afraid you're going to get them.
Yeah.
Um, well, that bums me out a little bit that
Mhm.
nobody talks to each other, because I noticed that, and yeah, that's a bitch. I don't like that. But
Yeah, I don't either. It's kind of weird. Like you think like a lot of us are the same age. Like you would think we all live in the same towns that are close to each other. Like you would think that like more drivers would kind of like, and maybe it's different as you go up the ranks a little bit. I don't know. And
mm,
so like I don't know how it is in Xfinity or Cup, but like the truck stuff, like it's harsh. Like it's no one says like a lot of times I feel like I make people uncomfortable because I'm the driver that like if another driver walks by me, I'll say hi. And like
yeah.
I feel like they get uncomfortable, like, why are you talking to me type deal. I'm
Do
like,
you,
sorry, just trying to be nice.
do you think they're afraid to talk to you because they might have a girlfriend or a wife, and they feel like, oh, I'm talking to a girl, my wife's going to jump my ass?
I don't think so because like it'll just I just it's not even talk to me. Like I just say hi as I'm walking by.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
I'm not even trying to start a conversation. I just try to be nice. I say
yeah.
hi to everybody. I always ask how everybody is. Like and I don't know. I see it with other drivers though, like guy to guy. I do see it a lot with that too. So that's what makes me believe it's not just because I'm a girl type deal.
Yeah. Well, I do want to say this. The truck series is hard because they got a lot of side force, a lot of drag. You're
Mhm.
in the throttle 99% of the time. If you can't let out of the gas, I want you to get to the Xfinity series, because although you use a lot of throttle, there's times you can roll up off the throttle. So
Yeah.
those trucks are a son of a booger.
Yeah, they're a handful. They are a handful. And I think with the truck series, something that has hurt me so much. Like I feel like every driver is different. What every driver's strengths and weaknesses are different. What they need to succeed is different. And I think for me, what I need to most of the time be fast somewhere, like even if I'm behind a little bit, I know I can get to the pace that I need to be at. It might take a few laps or so. I know I can get there, but practice. Like I went into the truck series with no practice whatsoever my first year. I was
Well,
going to
during that
all these
coronavirus, you guys couldn't
uh-huh,
practice either.
and a lot of people forget that. So like my first year, I feel like was almost a wash because I was going to all these new tracks with not one lap on the track, never qualified there. I'm trying to figure out how to drive this damn truck that is unstable as hell whenever you get behind someone.
Wide open, just my God.
Yeah, you're like wide open, and then I'm like, oh, I'm significantly faster than this guy. I'm about 10 truck lengths back. All of a sudden, you get 5, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so free. I wasn't this before. I'm super tight. And so it's like, it was so hard for me. And I still feel like I have a challenge with it. But that first year, I had no practice, no qualifying, never figured out what the limit of the truck was. I feel like ever because I was constantly in dirty air, constantly in traffic. And then going in the second year, it's like, okay, you'll get 15 minutes, 20 minutes of practice, which that's not enough time to mock up, not enough time to do any of that. So we go out there and you're expected to fire off initially on pace. I'm like, okay, well, I have never drove this truck. Like, I'm 2 years. This is my second year.
Hailie?
And I know. They're like, why aren't you top of the board? I'm like, I'm
first time in
trying.
it.
And you expect to go out there, you're like, okay, I've never qualified here. So I don't know what the limit of this truck is when we go out on brand new tires, not in traffic type deal. And you're expected to go qualify good or go be top of the board in practice. And like, I feel like that was something I struggled with so much. And so I'm trying to build this notebook off 15 to 25 minutes of practice, like in trying to get clean air and qualifying. Like I'm taking notes. I'm like, I don't think I hit the limit of the truck here. It's my first time qualifying here, so I don't know. And then there's tracks, like quite a few tracks got rained out practice and qualifying my second year because I have a bunch of blank races for that category. So I'm going my third year into this, going, I still don't know the limit of the truck here at this place.
Jeff Gordon and myself and Bobby Labonte, we came into the Cup Series together. Mm-hmm. We were 3 rookies. And as time went on, one thing that I learned about Jeff Gordon was that Jeff grew up as a big horsepower driver. He grew up in open wheel midgets, then the big sprint cars. But the moral of the story is this. When he ran the IROC series, mm-hmm. Low horsepower, he didn't show up very good. I've always thought that Jeff was a high horsepower driver, very good with throttle control. Mm-hmm. I just wanted to let you know also that Jimmy Johnson barely won one Xfinity race at Chicago and then went to the Cup Series. So it's a total false statement that you have to be good in trucks before you go to the Xfinity Series. There's plenty of examples out there. I just wanted to tell you that. So I want to see you get to the Xfinity Series. It's a complete, listen, I'm the mayor. I ran the most races in that series to this day. I got the most starts.
Really?
Oh yeah. 544 Xfinity starts. Yeah. So, the truck series is just balls to the wall.
Yeah.
You never let off the gas. It's,
Yeah.
All right. So we're gonna start slowing down here a little bit. I roughed you up enough. Out of everything you drove, what's the most fun? Now I ask everybody this question. What's the most fun vehicle that, and it even could even be your life?
Mm-hmm. I think it's a vehicle combo of like the track you go to. Cause like I really, really enjoyed driving the Xfinity car. Like it was almost like a breath of fresh air at Vegas. But also I love 1.5 mile racing. And so that's something that's like, and I always tend to do a little better on 1.5 miles. But that's something to where I'm like, okay, maybe I just really like this Xfinity car because I was on 1.5 miles. But no, I just, like that was a lot of fun. Man, the SRX car at Eldora, it was hard to beat. It's hard to beat. Like man, it was so much fun. Like it was, I did not expect it. I watched the race back, did some homework beforehand, that race that we went to out at Eldora. I played a lot on the simulator, and I'm like, it's not going to get slicked off in the middle like it would like a dirt late model race or a sprint car race. I was like, because of what it was the year previous, the cushion and like there was still a lot of moisture, I would say 2 lanes down from the wall. So I was like, it's not going to be necessary to run that high or anything to make speed. And so then we went there, and then all of a sudden, cushion's blowing up, keeps getting a little higher. And I'm like, damn, we are going to be on the fence. And I'm like, this is going to be sick.
Dirt racer, I like you.
Yeah. And so when we went there, and all of a sudden that started happening, I saw Tony in the top, and the bottom never got worked in. And I practiced on the simulator, slow rolling the bottom, kind of staying where the moisture was on the straightaways, corners, because I saw, what's his name? He raced the SRX race there at Eldora previously. He finished, I think, second to Tony. His name starts with a C. I forget it.
Is he a dirt racer?
Dirt racer. I guess he does dirt, and he does, I think, also pavement midgets or sprint cars.
Oh, hell, I don't know.
I don't remember, but I remember seeing him slow roll the bottom.
Yeah,
so I
and yep.
And so And I practiced on the simulator, and then all of a sudden we were ripping the top. I was like, this is probably the coolest thing I've ever done. And it looks cool too. It's hard to make stock cars look cool sometimes. Like, I feel like they look so glued to the track a lot of times. And even in the dirt racing, like when you go Bristol Dirt, we went to Knoxville in the Truck Series, like it didn't look that fast. Like, you're so used to these badass dirt cars that,
You
like,
ran second at Knoxville.
yeah. I ran second at Knoxville, but like it kind of, you're slow rolling the bottom.
Yeah.
When you're ripping the boards, it's a totally different story.
Yeah, and you never, what I was impressed with at the SRX race, you never allowed the front end to push on entry. You know,
Yeah.
Tony was dead sideways all night long, which
Oh, yeah.
surprised me
Mhm.
because he'll usually drive a little straight. But yeah, so SRX race, you like that car? And
I
then
really enjoyed that. Like, I don't know if it's just because it's the latest thing in my mind, but that was so much fun at Eldora.
what are your thoughts right now on? And I ask everybody this, but you're awfully young, so I don't know how you can answer this, but I'll give it a go.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on the sport of NASCAR when you look at it? You know, the Cup Series, the next gen, the talk of going international, you know, the racing through the streets of Chicago. I find you wise.
Mhm.
So what do you think of where NASCAR is going in general, all three series?
I think I don't know where they're trying to go, so it's hard to say on that side. As for the Chicago race, and this is a conversation I've had with a few people. Yes, the views are going to be good. How good were the views of the initial Bristol dirt race? They were great. You're bringing NASCAR Cup cars are going on dirt. That's never happened before. Yeah, the views are going to be great. And same thing with Chicago. You're bringing the first ever street course to NASCAR. Views are going to be great. It doesn't mean they're always going to be great, though. You see the Bristol dirt views, they've gone down. And so it becomes a little less appealing. And I think it's hard to say because I don't know exactly where they're going, but like there's plenty of badass road courses that we can go to, like a bunch of them. And so like Chicago, I think it was cool like as a one-off deal, but like I don't think there needs to be like 3 or 4 of them on the schedule. I think there's plenty of great road courses to go to as it is. I think one is fine. I'd be totally okay with that. Shoot, man, if I make it to Cup, I'll be happy with that.
And it's okay because we're big fans of the sport. You can talk
Yeah.
about any division you want. That's fine.
Yeah, yeah,
What
I'm
you're
a big
saying is-
fan of NASCAR, and like I don't
Yeah.
ever want to be hating on NASCAR or anything like that because like I come home after a truck race and like I sit on the couch and I watch the Xfinity race, I watch the full Cup race because I enjoy it, like because I truly love it
You're
and I
a
love
racer.
that I'm a part of it. Yeah, I swear I have more subscriptions to Dirt Vision, Flow Racing, and Dirt
Me
Track Places.
too. I put it on Chromecast on my big TV.
Oh yeah, we have the same thing. And different dirt series. I'm like, man, we probably spent like 500, $1,000 a month in just subscriptions to watch dirt racing every night.
You
Like, this
learn a
is
lot, and you
ridiculous.
learn a lot. It's
Yeah,
part of
yeah.
a learning tool.
But I enjoy it. I love it. Like, that's all I watch. We don't watch TV shows. We don't watch movies. We watch dirt racing every single night. And so, like, I just love racing. But as for where it's headed, international, I don't know. I've never raced international before.
Yeah.
And I feel like that would be it'd be a lot, which it'd be a lot of work, a lot of money. And I think the biggest hurdle with the sport right now is the money coming in versus the money going out. Is you can't just be relying on these big investors in a team or people with money partnering into teams to offset the cost of what's not coming in for sponsor dollars. And so I think it's making the appeal come back to where sponsors do want to be a part of it. But you have to, in order to do that, it comes with eyes, it comes with viewership. And so I think there's a lot that would have to get sorted to bring it back to what it was back in the day. And times have changed. Social media has gotten popular. And now there's a high demand for social media views and stuff, even for my side of things. And so that's how a lot of times I'm selling sponsors. And I'm so thankful that the times have changed because I'd probably be racing a few years ago if I was trying to make it in those sorts of things because I didn't have social media to utilize to bring sponsors in.
Hailie, I'm going to tell you something straight up. And if people have made it this far in this awesome conversation, you know, we clip it up and put it on YouTube. But I'll share with you and I tell some of my close friends, my sponsors, they don't care about my race cars. They want my social media. And I try to tell the kids that are shy, hey, Wallace, you got all that NASCAR money. I'm like, you dumbass.
I love when people say you have NASCAR money. You're like, oh
no. but so this could be a 5-minute conversation, 2-minute conversation, but we're at the end now. So YouTube, millions and millions of views. Your family is so famous for YouTube. When YouTube or just social media, because I've watched you kids, your brothers, you, your dad, your mom, you all are all in, and you understand, and I understand the power of it. And it's what has kept my career going. And you just referenced it about you.
That's why I have a career right now.
You got a great career. Well, when was the first time did your mom or dad sit you down and said, hey, this YouTube thing, at what age do you remember this sensation, of YouTube and their sponsors like it? What age were you? Do you remember the talk your family had with you? We need content.
My dad was always about making content, as in like he always put on a really good act. When X Games came around, they would film skits, like dirt bike skits with their crew of guys, and post it on YouTube and stuff. And I'm talking like OG YouTube days, 10, 15 years ago.
He got it early.
Yeah. And so he was already kind of doing that stuff, and he loved doing it. He enjoys dressing up in like outfits and doing skits. Like, like back in the day, and they were super funny. Like him and his buddies would film stuff for YouTube. And that's back when like, I feel like those were kind of popular. And so he's always doing crazy stuff. And so I kind of just like learned from him. And then he started Instagram. Like I still remember to this day when one of my aunts came over and was talking about Instagram for the first time. Like I was little, and I don't even know how I remember, but I remember us making an account, and I had just got an iPhone for the first time. And my family had just switched from Blackberries to iPhones.
Oh, the legendary Blackberry.
Yeah. I remember. And I remember they came over and we all downloaded Instagram and stuff. And we just kind of started doing it from there. My dad started like clipping up or putting pictures of his dirt bike on there. And it was so new. Everything was so new back then. And he was already doing Facebook. So he had a big Facebook following. My mom was helping him run that. But like, he never really took it super serious because YouTube for him back then didn't make money. And neither did Instagram or neither did Facebook. And so it was more just a way to get views, and then people would sponsor you for who you are, and then you go do what you do. And so now it's transitioned into, okay, YouTube pays pretty good money. Monetization money is it's better than any other platform. And Instagram doesn't pay. Facebook pays a little bit. TikTok pays a little bit. And so all these platforms now some of them are monetizing, some of them aren't, but the real money is in selling ads for them. So I have a separate manager who just separately, all away from racing and like 2 different businesses, sells my ads for YouTube. He calls me, says, hey, I got a deal from so-and-so. It's for this much money, 60-second ad. I'll give you the read and the product will be there tomorrow. And I go, okay, no problem. And I do. It takes me an hour, 30 minutes, an hour to film, knock it out real quick. And that's where I make my money on YouTube. And so the racing stuff, the money I bring in for racing, that goes right back out. It's sponsor money to pay for racing. And I live off that money on YouTube ads and those sorts of things. And so a lot of the times, like I try to keep both separate because I never want to have to touch my racing money to survive. And that money is going directly back in so we can go to the racetrack.
Yeah, this is a great story. So for all the races that are watching, people say, Wallace, you got that NASCAR money. That's the reason you win those dirt races. I said, no, YouTube money.
I know. I think about it, and I put 100% of my effort into racing. I always make sure all my racing obligations are done before I do anything. That is my goal. I always make sure I'm done watching footage, doing the simulator stuff, and I figured out a good balance of fitting in the social media side of things to where we just my boyfriend naturally films all the races and I just do my normal thing. It's become so normal for me. But when we're back at home filming those ad type deals, that happens after all my racing obligations are done, after all the meetings, the Zoom calls, the posts for this sponsor, the doing this conference, whatever it is, all that happens preparing for races. And all that happens after. And I figured out a good way to fit that in. But if I could be probably making some decent chunk of money if I was putting my full effort into YouTube, but I'm not, because I want to be a racer. That's what I love to do. That's what I want to do. And that's where I want my career to be. The YouTube side of things, it just helps.
Yeah. Hailie, listen, I already knew it. One of the reasons I wanted to have a conversation with you is because I feel like you're rare. You do got it going on. I hope that everybody watches this realizes how wise you are and you understand a lot. You know, you're not just a pretty girl trying to run a race car. I have 3 daughters. I love them with my life, and I see what you're doing is not easy. Racing's not easy for the boys.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you so much for coming on Kenny Conversation.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
And you get to that Xfinity Series. I see what's up. Everybody follows everybody, and we all the whole garage area has peripheral vision.
Yeah.
Whether you want to know about somebody's career or not, you're gonna know because everybody sees what's up. So do good, and remember, everybody, we are in podcast form. We're on iTunes or Spotify. And as we always say, please like and subscribe right here. And Hailie, I guess I'm going to see you at Lucas Oil Speedway.
Yeah, I'll see you in a few days.
I'm going to be racing you, girl.
We'll have fun.
Thank you, Hailie.
No, thank you. I appreciate it.